Think about a time at work when you felt like you just couldn't win. You worked hard, you did what was asked, but somehow every mistake got noticed and every success got ignored. Your manager seemed to have already decided something about you, and nothing you did could change it. If that experience sounds familiar, I want to offer you something that most career advice completely misses. It probably wasn't personal. And understanding why it happened is the key to making sure that you never stay stuck in that position again. I'm Nadav. I'm a professor of organizational behavior at INSEAD, where I study the psychology behind how people evaluate each other at work. Today, I want to walk you through something called the setup to fail syndrome, what it is, why it happens, and the 3-step evidence-based strategy of getting out of it. Let's start. So let's start with a scenario. Imagine you join a new team or take on a new project, or maybe you just get a new manager. In those situations, things are uncertain. There's a learning curve. A few small things that don't go perfectly early on really matter. And then imagine something subtle starts to happen. Your manager begins to check in on you more often than it feels normal. They're reviewing your work more closely than other people. They start giving you more direction than you asked for, or more than they give other people. And here's the difficult part. The closer that they watch you, the more likely they are to catch you in moments of struggle. Because everyone has moments of struggle when they're new or when conditions aren't right. Those moments get noticed by them and then logged by them and then remembered by them. And the moments when you succeed, those get barely registered with your manager because it wasn't the lens with which he or she was looking at you. This is called the setup to fail syndrome. It has a name, it's well documented. It's far more common than most people realize. Now, here's the part that most people get wrong, and getting this wrong keeps them stuck. When we're in the middle of it, the instinct is to assume the worst about our manager because they're the person doing it. It's easy to assume that they're threatened by us, that they're playing politics, that they want us to fail, and I totally understand that reaction. When you feel like you're being watched unfairly, and when you feel like the deck is stacked against you, anger and frustration are completely reasonable. But here's what the research actually shows. Most people who set others up to fail are not actually doing it maliciously. They're doing it because of the way all of our human brains process information. So here's the mechanism. When a manager hears something negative about an employee, it could be a rumor, secondhand concern, even just a vague worry, they start asking a question. It might be something like, is this person going to struggle? And that question shapes everything that comes next. Because when we're looking for an answer to a specific question, we look for evidence that confirms it. This is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most replicated findings in all of psychology. So if the question is this person going to have trouble? The manager naturally looks for signs of trouble. And so they find it. They notice the stumbles, they notice the failures, they notice the imperfections, and they miss the wins because they're not looking for them. And so they increase supervision to prevent failure. And ironically, that makes the person feel mistrusted, which makes them even more likely to play it safe, which means fewer bold moves. And that ends up looking a lot like underperformance. And so the box just getting tighter and tighter. And here's the thing that makes it so difficult to escape. The manager doesn't usually realize that they're doing any of this. What they're thinking is, I'm being helpful. I'm being attentive. I'm trying to prevent this employee from failing. And so in their minds, and also kind of in reality, they're not a villain in the sense that they're only a human being whose brain is doing exactly what most human brains do. When people realize that they're being set up to fail, the most common response is one of two things. The first is to try to work harder, to grind more, to prove yourself through sheer output and effort, to try to brute force your way out of the box. Now, the problem with that is that working harder doesn't change what your manager is looking for. If the question that they're asking is this person going to struggle, then additional effort just gives them more surface area to spot mistakes. It's a little bit like running faster on the wrong treadmill. Now, the second response is to vent to colleagues, to friends, to family, to tell them all about how unfair your manager is. This is a way to process anger by talking about how unfair the situation is. Now, some of that is healthy because you don't want your frustration to be completely bottled up. But if venting is all you do, then you miss the most important thing, which is having a strategy to actually change the situation. So what actually works? Here's an evidence-based approach in 3 steps. Step 1, get an outside perspective before you do anything else. When you're in the middle of a situation like this, your emotions are too close to it. You can't see it clearly, and you shouldn't try to. Instead, find someone you trust who's not part of the situation, somebody who genuinely wants you to succeed, but has no stake in the outcome. Ask them to analyze the situation as if they were an outside consultant. You don't want them to validate your frustration, but rather to describe the situation in a neutral way and to genuinely try to take your manager's perspective. It's super uncomfortable, but it's essential because someone outside the emotional field can see things that you cannot. Now, they might tell you the same thing you already believe, but also they might tell you something you've been missing, like a constraint that your manager is under, a miscommunication that started the whole thing, a way that your behavior looks from the outside that you weren't aware of. In a way, what you're doing here is you're outsourcing the analysis to somebody whose judgment is not clouded by being inside of it. Okay, so step 2 is change the information that your manager is getting. Remember, your manager is asking a particular question and looking for evidence that answers that particular question. So your job is to introduce new evidence that gets them to ask a different question. So you're not going to do that by arguing with them, and you're not going to do that by saying you're being unfair, even if they are being unfair. Rather, you'll do that by making your situation and your constraints and your wins more visible. So if you're being supervised so closely that it's actually slowing your work down, say so in a calm and professional manner and frame it around outcomes. You might say something like, I want to make sure I'm giving you the results that you're looking for. Can we talk about what that looks like and what I need to do to get there? As another example, if you don't have the resources or you don't have clarity about what to do, you just want to name that specifically. Most managers genuinely don't realize how constraints look from your side. See, the manager isn't thinking, I wonder what obstacles are in this person's way. They're thinking, is this person performing or not? So you have to make any legitimate obstacles or constraint that you have super visible to the manager so they're aware of it. Now remember, the manager's perspective is to try to help you. They just don't quite know how to do it. So if you make the constraints that you have visible, they might actually use this motivation to help in a good way by removing these constraints. Step 3, you want to give them the evidence to change their initial question. So here's the thing about confirmation bias. It can work for you just as easily as it can work against you. If your manager starts out with a negative hypothesis, then they've been unconsciously collecting evidence to support it. Now, your goal is to flip that hypothesis and to make it into a positive hypothesis. In other words, you want to shift the question in their minds to, is this person going to struggle, into, is this person actually pretty good? Once that question changes in their mind, then everything they observe starts going through a different filter. The same action that once looked like a mistake now looks like somebody who's still figuring things out and developing and progressing nicely. The same quiet morning now looks like focused work rather than disengagement. So try to be strategic about what make you visible. Bring your good ideas to meetings, flag your successes and mention them, not in a self-promotional way, but in a matter-of-factly kind of way. For example, you might say something like, here's what I got done this week. Here's the decision that I made, and this is why I made it. What you're doing is you're actively managing the information flow that your manager is getting, and you're doing what the science says actually works. There's something I want to say about why this matters beyond the immediate career implications. Being set up to fail is one of the most demoralizing experiences a person can have at work, and this is spoken from experience. It makes you feel invisible, underestimated, simply trapped, and the natural response to assume the worst about a manager and to become defensive is completely human. But here's what I found valuable about understanding the psychology behind it. What it does is it removes the sting of believing that everything is personal. When you understand that your manager is probably not doing this to you for personal reason, that they're doing it because of how all human minds work, including yours, then something important shifts. Your anger gets replaced by something more useful and productive, which is clarity. And clarity is what lets you stop reacting and start actually solving the problem for the long term. So there's one more thing that I want to know. The managers who do this aren't lost causes. They want to be fair and they want to be helpful. They want their people to succeed. They just don't quite know how to make that happen. Another way to think about it is that they have a brain that's running on a flawed program, the same program that all of our brains run on. So that means that if you handle this well, if you come back with objectivity, with information, and if you make your wins and successes visible, you're not just solving your immediate situation, you're actually helping your manager become better at their job. That's the paradox of being set up to fail. If you do this right, it can be one of the most clarifying and transformational experiences of your entire career. So if you're in this situation right now, you've been in that situation and never quite understood what happened, I hope this gives you a framework that's more useful than just work harder or find a new job. The science is pretty clear on what actually moves the needle. Get an outside perspective, change the information flow, and give your manager the evidence to revise their point of view. That's how you get out of the box. If this kind of evidence-based thinking about leadership and human behavior is of interest to you, this channel is exactly what it's built for. So subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.